Thank you very much. So we are going to start with today's assembly. We are going to start today with the introduction of the Arlington Color Guard, which consists of both members of the fire department and the police department. Everyone should please rise and put their hand on their heart while we are introducing our colors. Thank you. Thank you. You may all be seated. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Ottoson Middle School's annual Memorial Day Assembly. I'd like to give a special welcome to the veterans that will be joining us today, as well as our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Kathleen Bodie, and our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Roderick McNeil. Today we honor those members of the armed forces who gave the ultimate sacrifice, their lives, defending our Constitution and our country. We honor these brave men and women who died so that their fellow citizens and future Americans could enjoy, as Thomas Jefferson stated in the Declaration of Independence, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. My hope is, through this assembly, is that many of you will understand the importance of Memorial Day and will take time to reflect on that meaning on Monday in which it is commemorating. Right now, I would like to please introduce some of our honored guests who served in the military and who are here with us today. I would first like to introduce Thomas Dayhill, who served in the Army during World War II. Next, Thomas Daly, who served in the Army during the Korean War. James Curley, who served in the Army also in the Korean War. Robert Tozy, who served in the Army during the Korean War. Bill McCarthy, serving in the Navy during the Vietnam War. One of our members of the school committee, Bill Hayner, who served in the Air Force during the Vietnam War. Frank Leveroni, who served in the Army. A former member of the Ottoson staff, John Gonzalez, who was in the Army and served during the Vietnam War. Bob Devlin, who served in the Army during the Vietnam War. Rick Jones, who was a member of the Marines. Bob Hunter, who served in the Air Force during the Vietnam War. A member of the Ottoson staff, Jeff Melton, who serves in the Navy currently and was in Iraq and enduring freedom. Jeff Chunglo, who served in the Navy, was in Iraq and enduring freedom. He is also the director of the Veterans Affairs in the town of Arlington. I also wish to make a special mention of John Powers, who served in World War II, could not join us today. However, he is represented by both his son and his daughter-in-law at today's ceremony. I wanted to thank all the students who have helped bring down our veterans, and also to thank the 7th and 8th graders for their show of respect during this assembly. At this time, we will be playing the national anthem. Thank you. You may now be seated.
Good afternoon. Memorial Day is not about division, it is about reconciliation. Memorial Day, originally called Decoration Day, is a day of remembrance for those who have died in our nation's service. There are many stories as to the original Memorial Day, with over 24 cities and towns laying claim to being the birthplace of Memorial Day. While Waterloo, New York was officially declared the birthplace of Memorial Day by President Lyndon Johnson in 1966, it's difficult to prove conclusively the origins of the day. It is more likely that it has many separate beginnings, each city planning a gathering of people to honor the war dead in the 1860s. They tapped into the general human need to honor our dead, each contributed honorably to the growing movement. Let me introduce Bennett Ronayne to read about Memorial Day, and then we'll have Natasha Stark, Carly Buck, and Elizabeth Seward read A Salute to the Brave.
Memorial Day is a time to remember and celebrate. Though sadness touches our hearts, courage and bravery are two Memorial Day traditions that will carry on long after we are gone. These Memorial Day poems are salute the finest and bravest.
Heroes, they are fallen but never forgotten. the brave they did save this Memorial Day. We remember the flag forever waves for all that stood tall. The sacrifice for our quality of life is truly cherished and blessed.
The lost. Many were lost at such a cost, their blood shed for what freedom meant. Some never returned, and we yearn to say, we remember you every Memorial Day.
Today, we decorate the mighty graves of military men who paid for our right to stay safe. O Lord, we do pray that you help them all find their way, watch over their families, and bring your beautiful faith to heal them and light the journey's path to their eternal peace for our love they never betrayed. O Lord, bless them all this Memorial Day. Amen.
Okay, now to read Flanders Fields, the introduction by Carolyn Keneally and Mona Mohadi will read. Thank you.
In Flanders Fields is a war poem in the form of a rondeau, written during the First World War by Canadian physician and Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae. He was inspired to write it on May 3, 1915, after presiding over the funeral of friend and fellow soldier Alexis Helmer, who died in the Second Battle of Ypres. According to legend, fellow soldiers received the poem after McCrae, initially unsatisfied with his work, discarded it. In Flanders Fields was first published on December 8th of that year in the London-based magazine Punch. It is one of the most popular and most quoted poems from the war. Its references to the red poppies that grew over the graves of fallen soldiers resulted in the remembrance poppy becoming one of the world's most recognized memorial symbols for soldiers who have died in conflict.
In Flanders Fields by John McCrae. In Flanders Fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
And now I'd like to ask our keynote speaker, Jeff Chunglo, Director of Veteran Services, Arlington, Mass., to come up.
Good afternoon, everybody. So when I was leaving my house this morning, my wife said to me, "Good luck this afternoon, and don't put him to sleep." So I'm looking for a volunteer. Stand up. What's your name? Daniel? Okay, go ahead and have a seat, Daniel. So your job, while I'm up here talking, is if I start to bore you, give me the high sign, okay? All right. So how many of you have ever thought of how your life would be if you grew up in a different family, a different region of the country, or a different nation? Anybody? Okay. Now imagine what the world would look like if you weren't born. So I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story about a man named George. So this story might sound familiar to some people here. So when George was a boy, he and his younger brother Harry were out sledding. So they were going down this big hill. Harry went down first, and he went out over the ice on this pond, went to the edge of the pond, and he fell through the ice. So his brother George ran down, jumped in the water, and saved his life. So then a few days later, George ended up getting sick, and he got an infection in his ear, and he lost hearing in his ear. So life went on. After school, George got a job at the local pharmacy. He would help out the pharmacist, make deliveries of prescriptions to people's homes, help out around the store. Well, one day he noticed that the pharmacist was really sad and distraught. And he didn't know why. And he saw him making a prescription for another child in the town. So George really noticed that something wasn't right. He had noticed a letter that the pharmacist had received that told him that his son had died in military service. The other thing that George noticed was that he was using the wrong medicine. So the pharmacist made the pills, gave it to George, and said, "Go deliver these." Well, George, he didn't deliver it. And the pharmacist got upset with him, hit him, was really upset because a sick child needed the medicine. So finally George said, "I think you did something wrong." So the pharmacist checked the pills, and actually he had used poison. So George, by his actions, saved a child in the community. So as time went on, George dreamed of going to college and traveling the world. So his father ran a local savings and loan, like a credit union in town. So his dad passed away right when George was set and ready to go out and see the world. But the board said, "We need the savings and loan to compete against a bad, corrupt banker that was in town. So we need the savings and loan. So we want, George, we want you to stay in town. We want you to take over the savings and loan." So he did. And he never left his hometown, and he never traveled, and he never saw the world. But he did get married, and he had 3 children. But one day, the credit union, they were supposed to make a large deposit to the bank, and that money was lost. And it was lost in the bank where the corrupt banker saw that it was lost. So panicked, George went to the banker and said, "What can I do?" So the banker wouldn't give him a loan, and George said, "Well, what I have is I have life insurance." So the banker basically said, "Well, guess what, George? You're worth more dead than you are alive." So he got thinking about that. And he went to a bridge, and he was going to jump in the water below. So his guardian angel appeared and stopped him and saved his life. But then George said, "You know, I'm worth more dead than alive. I wish I was never born." So his guardian angel said, "Okay, your wish is granted. You've never been born." So they went back to town. Things looked very different. He walked into a local establishment. He knew everybody's name. They acted very different, and none of them knew him. His wife was what they called an old maid at that time. She was unmarried, so he never had children. The town was very different. No savings and loan. The town was run by the corrupt bank. So it was very different. So how does this kind of relate to what we're talking about here. So he was never born. So as a result, 600 soldiers were killed that his brother Harry grew up, served in the military, and saved. And his brother Harry also received the Congressional Medal of Honor. The pharmacist served 20 years in prison for accidentally poisoning a child. And again, the savings and loan never existed. So lots of people were forced to deal with the bank and never had the opportunity to grow. So how does this relate to Memorial Day? That's right. So this is from a movie called It's a Wonderful Life. And it's one of my favorite movies, too. Perfect answer. So it relates to our veterans, right? So who's your teacher? You get an A for that. So how many people here have a member of their family that's in the military? Wow, impressive. How many know a non-family member that's in the military? That's great. That's very good. So now the other thing. Have you ever spoken to them about their service? Okay, not so many hands. So I'll get back to that in a minute. So imagine what our world would look like without our veterans, and what it would look like if they didn't serve. What would the U.S. look like if we had lost World War II? Would we be speaking another language? How would our culture be? And then imagine the world that you live in right now without the freedoms that you enjoy every day. So what would the world look like without the following people? So has anyone ever heard of John Goodenough? Probably not. He was a meteorologist during World War II. But that wasn't the only thing that he did. He was responsible for the invention of the lithium-ion battery, something we all use every single day. And that has revolutionized how we call people, use cell phones. How about Wilson Greatbach? So he was a radio man during World War II. So after his service, he used his GI Bill, got his education, and became an American engineer. He's responsible for inventing the implantable cardiac pacemaker. This invention aided over 3 million people around the world, and an additional 600,000 are implanted every year. So before Greatbach made the adaptions, pacemakers were bulky, big external units with big batteries. So he managed to miniaturize the whole package and made it implantable inside the body. How about John F. Kennedy? All right, everybody should be raising their hand on that one. So he was a Navy veteran, and he commanded the infamous PT-109 boat during the Pacific in World War II. He was also our 35th president. So he's also best known for creating the Peace Corps. And the Peace Corps enabled thousands of Americans to aid and develop other countries around the world. He led America through the Cuban Missile Crisis, and this was an event that brought the US and Russia to the brink of nuclear war. And he also laid the foundation for the development of NASA and space exploration. But most importantly, What would our lives look like today if our veterans here today were not here? So please, give them a round of applause. So I didn't see too many hands that went up when I asked, have you spoken with a veteran? So here's my challenge to you. Seek out a veteran, whether it's a family member, and ask them about their service. What did they do? Why did they join the military? Did they sacrifice anything while they were serving their country? And then, do they have any words of advice for you? And then I'll close with, remember the true meaning of Memorial Day. So it's not a shopping holiday, it's not an extra day off, it's to pay tribute to the men and women that died in service so that we could enjoy all the freedoms that we enjoy every single day. So again, thank you for allowing me to speak this afternoon, and I hope you'll attend Memorial Day ceremony at the Town Hall, 9:30 on Monday morning. Shameless plug. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And now, Mr. Michio. Armed Forces on Parade. Thank you. In a Mother's Eyes, presented by Sophia Douglas and Jessica Smith.
In memory of PFC Lynn Robin Kreutzer, USMC, killed in action 1969 Vietnam. The day our flagpole was ready, we had no flag to fly. A mother stepped forward and said, "I have a flag," with a tear in her eye. It was given to me the day that we laid my son to rest. He was a true blue soldier who gave his life his best. I got a knot in my throat and a chill in my bones. A tear rolled down my face. A mother has lost her son at war, the pain on her face. In a mother's eyes, you can see red, white, and blue. In a mother's eyes, you can see the pain so true. Freedom comes with a cost of sadness and loss, you can see in a mother's eyes.
When someone puts their life on the line so others can be free, it's a selfless act of courage and love. How thankful we all should be. And when I look at the flag today, I see a whole new meaning there. I see the men and the women who died for her, so in this freedom we can share. In a mother's eyes, you can see red, white, and blue. In a mother's eyes, you can see the pain so true. Freedom comes with a cost of sadness and loss, you can see in a mother's eyes. In a mother's eyes, you can see red, white, and blue. In a mother's eyes, you can see the pain so true. Freedom comes with a cost of sadness and loss, you can see in a mother's eyes.
Thank you, girls. Here with the history of Arlington National Cemetery is Bennett Ronayne. Then reciting the poem Arlington will be Margot Awad and Layla Barrett.
Arlington National Cemetery in Arlington County, Virginia, is a military cemetery in the United States of America. Established during the American Civil War on the grounds of Arlington House, formerly the estate of the family of Confederate General Robert E. Lee's wife, Mary Anna Custis Lee, a great-granddaughter of Martha Washington. The cemetery is situated directly across from the Potomac River from the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Arlington by Jerry Spillman and Dave Turnbull. I never thought that this is where I'd settle down. I thought I'd die an old man back in my hometown. They gave me this plot of land, me and some other men, for a job well done. There's a big white house sits on a hill just up the road. The man inside, he cried the day they brought me home. They folded up a flag and told my mom and dad, "We're proud of your son." I remember Daddy brought me there when I was 8, and we searched all day to find out where my granddad lay. And when we finally found that cross, he said, "Son, this is what it costs to keep us free."
Now here I am, 1,000 stones away from him. He recognized me on the first day I came in, and it gave me a chill when he clicked his heels and saluted me. And I'm proud to be on this peaceful piece of property. I'm on sacred ground, and I'm in the best of company. I'm thankful for those, thankful for the things I've done. I can rest in peace, I'm the chosen ones. I made it to Arlington. And every time I hear 21 guns, I know they brought another here home to us. We're thankful for those, thankful for the things we've done. We can rest in peace because we are the chosen ones. We made it to Arlington, dust to dust, don't cry for us. We made it to Arlington.
Columns at Arlington High School presented by Kyle Brogan.
Located at the columns at Arlington High School, there is a plaque, a tribute in memoriam, 1914 to 1918, in honor of the members of the Arlington High School who served in World War in defense of liberty. You wore your courage as you wore your youth, presented by the classes of 1921 to 1929. Richmond F. Collins, John J. McCarthy Jr., Raymond Taylor, Richard W. Edwards, Arthur Vail, Henry Bradley Frost, Warren Robinson, Joseph W. Zwinge. They gave their merry youth away, they shall not grow old.
This Tree Grows, presented by Caroline Keneally.
On the front lawn at Arlington High School, there's a small monument adorned with 4 U.S. flags in memory of U.S. Army Special Forces Michael D. Camerlingo, AHS 1965, who at the age of 22 gave his life in Vietnam in honor of his country on the 2nd day of November 1969. This tree grows. Time cannot break the bird's wing from the bird. Bird and wing together go down, one feather. No thing that ever flew, not the lark, not you, can die as others do.
I think we all know where Buzzell Field is in Arlington. Here to read about Dickey Buzzle is Rowan McConkey.
Located on Summer Street, Richard Dickey Buzzle graduated from Arlington High School in 1960. While at AHS, he managed the football, ice hockey, and baseball teams, as well as being an honor roll student. His mother, Madeline, was the secretary to the superintendent of the Arlington Public Schools, Mr. William Gibbs. He was appointed to the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. Upon graduation from the Naval Academy, he was commissioned as a lieutenant in the United States Navy. The field is dedicated by the town of Arlington to the memory of Lieutenant Richard H. Buzzle, born September 27, 1942, killed in action on December 19, 1970, in South Vietnam. The memorial was erected at the field site by his family and friends on May 20, 1973. Thank you, Dickey Buzzle.
And our last reading will be For Whom the Bugle Sounds, Caroline Keneally and Bennett Ronayne.
For Whom the Bugle Sounds by Kevin Hussey Sr. I know this place, the peaceful scene, the stones, the flags, the grass so green. A warm May sun, a bright blue sky, beneath this ground the heroes lie. They come to this place every year to visit them and shed a tear. For some were young and some were old, each with a story that should be told. Mothers and fathers, daughters and sons, they all remember what these heroes have done. Old friends come here to reminisce, to talk to old buddies they dearly miss. In Vietnam, in the Mekong Delta, the mud, the sun, it gave no shelter. In battles there, you stayed the course, proud soldiers of the Riverine Force.
Your name now etched on this long black wall, for all gave some, but you gave all. They passed this place in silent thought. In dreams, the battles are still being fought. I came today with my bugle in my hand. With tears and sorrow, I take my stand. I press my bugle to trembling lips to honor those on land, air, and ships. Sleep, my friend, and be at rest. Those gathered above send you their best. Moist tears now shed on this sacred ground. I know for whom the bugle sounds. To honor the soldiers of the 9th Infantry Division, mobile riverine force, dedicated to all those who served in the Vietnam War. No one dies till their memory dies.
And now we'll have Miss Demetrio and the fine Ottoson Middle School Band present a salute to freedom. Taps. Taps is actually a variation of an earlier bugle call known as Scott's Tattoo, which was used in the United States from 1835 to 1860 and was arranged in its present form by Union Army Brigadier General Daniel Butterfield, an American Civil War general and Medal of Honor recipient who commanded the 3rd Brigade in the 1st Division of the 5th Army Corps of the Potomac while at Harrison's Landing, Virginia in 1862 to replace the French bugle call used to signal lights out. Butterfield's bugler, Oliver W. Norton of Erie, Pennsylvania, was the first to sound the new call. Within months, taps was used by both Union and Confederate forces. It was officially recognized by the United States in 1874. Please rise as the colors exit. And now, if our ushers and usherettes could escort our distinguished guests. And if you could give them a nice round of applause.